Hello guys, and welcome to this new episode of the Unexplainable Podcast. Who hasn't heard stories of people who, after playing with the Ouija board, have bitterly regretted it? I myself have told several over these years of life on the Unexplainable channel. Yes, because the Ouija board, used for a very long time as a means to communicate with the world of the dead, has always been surrounded by an aura of mystery. Its origin, although seemingly innocent, is rooted in an era of great spiritual and supernatural curiosity. But who are these entities that respond during a seance? Are they always benign, or can they turn out to be something decidedly dangerous? In this episode, I will introduce you to 6 that, according to many, are among the most cunning that can respond to our call. So here are the 6 most dangerous demons of the board. We are guys, and welcome to this new episode of the Unexplainable Podcast. Who hasn't heard stories of people who, after playing with the Ouija board, bitterly regretted it? I myself have told several of those years of life over the Unexplainable channel. Yes, because the Ouija board has been used for a long time as a means to communicate with everything. What I'm going to tell you here is the result of various testimonies that have been found all over the internet on social networks, blogs, forums, and whatnot. The entity I'm going to talk about is the one most mentioned by the community on the internet. And in some cases, they have their roots in very ancient beliefs. The line between reality and fantasy becomes hard to distinguish in this case. It will be up to you to decide on the truthfulness or otherwise of what you will hear. And with this short introduction, we can begin. Zozo, if you've been following me for a long time, this name should sound familiar to you. I dedicated an entire video to it years ago, and it certainly couldn't be missing from this roundup of demons associated with the Ouija. In fact, among the countless entities that are said to respond to the call of the board, none have earned such a sinister reputation. The name Zozo appears repeatedly in the stories of those who have dared to challenge the boundary between the world of the living and the spirit world, leaving behind an aura of pure terror. Its origins are shrouded in mystery. Some researchers suggest a connection with ancient French demonology texts from the 19th century, while others believe it emerged from the depths of the collective psyche, fueled by disturbing experiences passed down over time. Whatever its origin, one thing is certain: anyone who has encountered it has lived a nightmare experience. Zozo is distinguished by his sadistic and manipulative behavior. He often manifests himself by moving the Ouija pointer at extreme speed between the letters Z and O with a hypnotic and obsessive rhythm. His responses are ambiguous, often lies or even disturbing threats. It's not uncommon for him to pretend to be a benign entity at first, only to reveal his malevolent nature when the victim is already trapped in communication. The testimonies of those who have encountered Zozo are numerous and shocking. Many report feeling a dark presence in their homes after ending the session, as if someone or something was watching them in the shadows. Some report recurring nightmares, disturbing visions, and even episodes of temporary possession where they lost control of their own body and mind for brief but terrifying moments. There are stories of people who, after summoning Zozo, have experienced unexplainable accidents or a progressive deterioration of their mental and emotional health. Others have reported paranormal phenomena in their homes, such as objects moving on their own, doors slamming for no reason, and chilling whispers in the heart of the night. But there's one thing that makes Zozo particularly dangerous. That is its persistence. Unlike other entities that seem to vanish once the session is over, Zozo tends to remain in the place where it was summoned, insinuating itself into the life of the one who contacted it and continuing to torment them with its dark influence. So the advice from occultism experts is more than clear. If during a session the pointer starts moving between the letters Z and O, the thing to do is to immediately interrupt the communication and close the ritual as soon as possible. As it is said, Zozo is not an entity to be trifled with, let alone challenged. Its goal will never be to answer your questions, but to subjugate you, scare you, and in some cases destroy the weaker minds. Summoning Zozo means playing with fire, and as often happens, there's the risk of getting burned. Mama, the maternal deception. From what we are told, the Ouija board is a portal, a thin passage between the world of the living and the spirit world. At first glance, it may seem just a game, an innocent object that allows to answer questions and reveal solved mysteries. But in reality, it is an open window to something beyond our understanding, a dark and unknown realm where the laws of reality do not always apply. And when a familiar, reassuring voice is heard from the other side, a call that seems to come from a loved one we have lost, the temptation to listen becomes irresistible. However, the question we should ask ourselves is what happens when that voice that initially wraps us like a warm hug turns into a disturbing whisper, when the maternal comfort turns into a freeze that paralyzes like an invisible hand squeezing our heart. Mame is a dark, insidious entity taking shape under the guise of a loving and protective mother. Her initial appearance is sweet and reassuring, that of a maternal figure telling us not to fear, I am here for you. Then the deception is revealed. As the sessions continue, she becomes increasingly insistent. The words that once seemed affectionate and affirming begin to become demands, requiring more and more attention. Mother wants trust. She wants the participants to completely surrender to her voice. Her intention is not to help, but to take over the mind and soul of those who are drawn to her. The manipulations begin to become more explicit. Mom advises to come back every night to sit at the table and talk to her longer and longer. The initial invitation to continue the game seems harmless, but in the long run it becomes a necessity for the players, like a kind of addiction that grows out of proportion. And when someone tries to break the contact, when they try to break that bond, then the nature of the spirit changes. The manifestations become stronger, more disturbing. A young girl, for example, tells of having spoken with her mother for several consecutive nights. The entity presenting itself as the reincarnation of her deceased mother whispered words of comfort to her. But when she decided to stop the game, something changed in her house. Objects moving on their own, doors closing for no reason, increasingly strange family relationships filled with hatred and threats. And then the whispers, the voice of Mom getting closer and closer to the point of whispering, Mom is here, right next to her ear. Then it was the dreams that began to torment her, becoming increasingly dark. In each one, a female figure called her, begging her to pick up the board and never let it go again. Nightmares that caused her deep anguish. In the end, after trying everything, doctors, psychologists, the young woman would turn to an occult expert who would reveal the truth to her. What she had spoken to was not her mother at all, but something much older and evil, an entity that, it is said, feeds on suffering, its victims, and fear. In short, the deception of mother would be deep and cunning, something that has nothing to do with maternal love, obviously. So never respond to a voice that whispers sweet words to you, that promises you comfort or affection. Don't trust it. And when you finally blow out the candle, when you walk away from the table and think it's all over, are you really sure you're alone? Abacus the Trickster, Spirit. At first glance, Abacus doesn't seem like a malevolent entity. It's talked about as a playful spirit that moves quickly on the Ouija board and responds with ironic phrases, almost as if its only purpose was to have fun with the participants. A playful shadow, an echo of the past that sneaks into seances and with the air of an old, respectful friend. But behind this mocking facade hides something much more disturbing. Yes, because the biggest mistake one can make when dealing with Abacus is to ignore him. There are countless testimonies of people who made the mistake of taking him lightly online, mocking him or ending the session without his permission, and soon their amusement turned into pure terror. Objects moving on their own, doors slamming violently in the heart of the night, imperceptible whispers coming from empty rooms. And then there's the laughter, a cold, distorted laughter filled with a dark and malicious irony. A sound that seems to embed itself directly into the mind, carrying with it a sinister message. You didn't really think you could get rid of me that easily, did you? In a Reddit post, a group of friends recounts having summoned Abacus during an evening of laughter and curiosity. At first, the game seemed harmless. The pointer slid across the board with frantic movements, composing sarcastic responses that made everyone laugh. But when they tried to close the contact, everything changed. First, the board started to vibrate. The pointer moved on its own, indicating disjointed letters, like an incomprehensible message written by feverish hands. Then the chandelier began to sway, first slowly, then with increasing intensity. And finally the blackout. The room plunged into darkness, swallowed by an unreal silence. When the light came back, on the fogged mirror of the room appeared a message traced by invisible fingers. Let's play again. So, Abacus is not just a playful spirit. He's like a capricious child who loves games but turns them into nightmares. If someone dares to challenge him, he is a presence that feeds on attention and terror, because anyone who thinks they can dismiss him lightly will soon learn a lesson. Abacus neither forgets nor forgives. Bael, the Lord of the Night. Among the most disturbing entities that are said to manifest during a Ouija board session, Bael holds a place of absolute prominence. In classical demonology, he is described as one of the supreme demons of hell, a feared entity respected in medieval grimoires. His name appears in the Lesser Key of Solomon, an ancient esoteric manuscript that lists and describes numerous infernal spirits. Bael is often identified as a powerful demonic ruler, capable of assuming various forms to deceive and intimidate those who seek to evoke him. Some books depict him with 3 heads, one of a man, one of a frog, and one of a cat, a bizarre and unsettling aspect, which symbolizes his changing and deceptive nature. But what happens when his name appears on the board? Well, let's see it together. The stories of those who had the courage to summon Bael describe experiences at the limits of human understanding. His presence often manifests itself with an authoritative, almost imperative language. Unlike other entities that simply respond to the participants' questions, Ben seems to give actual orders. Some report having received enigmatic instructions from him, often disturbing ones like turning off all the lights in the house, writing certain symbols on the walls, or reciting phrases in unknown languages. In addition to his way of communicating, there are signs that often accompany his appearance. One of the most recurring is an intense smell of sulfur, a common feature in demonic manifestations, according to esoteric tradition. This smell, described as pungent and suffocating, can persist even after the session is closed. The side effects can really be scary, like one of the most common, sleep paralysis. After participating in a session where Bael would have been invoked, several witnesses reported finding themselves completely mobilized in their bed, in the heart of the night, with the feeling of being watched by a dark figure, a shadow that stood at the foot of their bed with a threatening air. And then there would be the nightmares, terrifying dreams where the demon does not usually speak, but radiates a palpable aura of terror, an oppressive anguish capable of haunting you even after waking up. Whether the stories about Bael are the result of suggestion or authentic testimonies, it's hard to know for sure. However, many occult experts warn against using the board to summon presences of this type. Not just simple projections of the human mind, but perhaps real and dangerous. And as we know, once a door to the unknown is opened, who can say what might come through it? Toby, the Deceptive Innocence. Picture sitting at a table, ugly. The lights in the room are dim. The silence is only broken by the held breath of the participants. Fingers brush the indicator, and a shiver runs down the spines of those present as it begins to move. No one is pushing it, or at least it seems that way. Then comes the first message, a simple name, almost harmless, Toby. The letter scrolls slowly on the board, almost hesitant, as if the entity on the other side is gathering courage. "Who are you?" someone whispers. The indicator moves again. The answers are short, almost childlike. "Hello?" A pause, a wait filled with tension. Then another sentence forms under the incredulous eyes of those present. "Do you want to play with me?" The voice that manifests through the board seems to be that of a child. His responses are playful, innocent. There's something tender in the way he writes, something that inspires trust. Toby seems like a lost soul, a lonely child in search of company. He responds enthusiastically, asks curious questions, and gently complains if ignored. This innocence could just be a mask. Many testimonies tell that the encounter with Toby does not end when the Ouija session is interrupted. On the contrary, that would just be the beginning. People who claim to have spoken with him report strange events happening in their homes in the following days. Shadows moving at the edges of sight, light footsteps echoing in the hallways, a faint and distant chuckling seeming to come from nowhere. Not to mention a disturbing detail if someone tries to end the session without his permission. Toby's tone changes. From sweet and playful, it becomes insistent, even threatening. The indicator starts to move forcefully, tracing words of plea or anger. "Don't go, stay with me." The question at this point arises spontaneously. Does Toby really have the spirit of a child, or is it something much darker? An entity that exploits its feigned innocence to approach those who, so to speak, let their guard down. Perhaps we will never know for sure, but if you should meet him, do not trust his words, because behind the voice of a child could hide a nightmare that you will never be able to free yourself from. The Red Man, the Dangerous Player. The Red Man is without a doubt one of the most enigmatic entities of the Ouija. He is not satisfied with the usual answers nor with superficial vocations. No, he wants something else. He is described as a cruel, ruthless being who brings with him an unbearable challenge, a game with no way out, that of choices, where every decision is a trap in which the victim is destined to lose. From what is said, this entity never bursts in with physical violence or shrill noises, but with an icy calm, capable of unsettling everyone present. His voice is not heard, but his questions arrive like a sharp blow, letter by letter. On the table, Ouija. Every word is weighed, every letter falls with an unsettling precision. Yet what makes this game unsettling is the fact that there is never a right answer. Imagine sitting around the table, your fellow players equally tense and silent. Your fingers, almost unintentionally, touch the pointer, which suddenly begins to move. The temperature in the room drops dramatically and a message appears. With the simplicity of a sentence, Red Man. Your heart leaps into your throat and a growing sense of discomfort pervades you. When you try to stop the session, when you try to distance yourself from this entity, a new question appears with unsettling slowness. Do you want to lose what you love or forget who you are? The words are a sentence, a psychological trap. There's no choice that can seem right. Every option is devastating. Yet the question doesn't stop hammering, like an echo invading the mind of anyone involved. And then another question emerges, increasingly pressing. Will you save yourself or a stranger? Choices intertwine, impossible to resolve, as if every way out was sealed in a maze of moral dilemmas. The already cold room becomes suffocating, the weight of the air increases, as if something invisible is getting closer and closer. Many report having heard a faint and deep breath behind them, as if the entity was observing their every move, waiting for the response. In some cases, the indicator moves on its own, pushing the participants to respond as if the entity wanted to force them to choose between its macabre options. But the real horror unleashes during the night. It's in dreams that the red man leaves his mark, not only metaphorical but physical. Many testimonies tell of disturbing nightmares after encountering the entity. In their dreams, they always find themselves in front of a man dressed in red, his face indistinct, blurred. His questions echo in the mind, repeated obsessively, as if the entity was no longer confined to the Ouija board. The boundary between the world of dreams and reality seems to dissolve, leaving anyone who had the courage or madness to confront it without peace. Some tell of waking up with red marks on their hands, as if they had written in their sleep, in an act of involuntary submission. There are those who claim that the red man is not just an entity tied to the spirit world, but a primordial force that feeds on uncertainty, fear, and above all, psychological torment. It's not just a simple spirit, it's an entity that lives off the choices made by those who cross its path. What matters most is that you have to make a choice, regardless of what you choose. And once you do, something in you changes forever. You will never be the same person again. In short, the Ouija board is much more than just a game, it seems. For over a century, it has fascinated, disturbed, and divided public opinion. For some, it's just a piece of plastic cardboard, a harmless pastime. For others, it's a door to the unknown, a gap that can't always be closed. But after everything you've heard today, would you ever play with a Ouija board? Think about it. The stories of those who have come face to face with dark presences are too many to be ignored. Whether it's self-suggestion or something deeper, the line between curiosity and danger is very thin. And have you ever had unsettling experiences with the Ouija board? Or do you know someone who has? Tell me in the comments or write to me in the podcast messages. Who knows, you could be the protagonist of a future episode. If you like this episode, leave a like, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, follow it on your favorite podcast platform, or share it with your friends. Greetings, and see you at the next appointment with the unexplainable.